Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. For those tuning in on the simulcast on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and on X, we're glad you all could be with us today. We're about to bring in our friends over on Amazon so they can be a part of our conversation as well. But a first timer with us here on Amazon Live to talk about his brand new book that's getting a lot of attention, but also about his love of storytelling, too. I think you guys are going to really enjoy as well. We're now live on Amazon Live with Cyrus Webb Presents. Going to type you guys a welcome message over there. If you guys are new to us on Amazon, welcome. Make sure you guys do hit that follow button, either here in this corner or down below. You also will see the new book by our next guest. We're excited to welcome Norman Woodworth to our broadcast today. Norman is celebrating his book that you guys can see there with him, The Golden Cylinder. We're going to talk to him not only about his love of storytelling, but also mysteries and what's been like to combine them in this new series. If you guys have not gotten your copy of the new book, you all can see you can get the Kindle edition there for only $5.99 on the Amazon side, or you can get the book in print there as well. But Norman, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Cyrus.
But the pleasure's definitely all mine. So I think this is really interesting, Norman, that one thing I thought was really, really cool about the Golden Cylinder is that we do get a mixture of your love of history and storytelling, but also, of course, of mystery as well. What has it been like for you to see the early response to the book?
It's been great. I'm relatively new to this. This is my second book in the series, and it's still a little bit of a new world, a new experience for me, but it's just a ton of fun, and seeing the response of readers is quite gratifying.
Yeah. And one thing you've been able to do, of course, you have these individuals who are known for being able to solve mysteries. You've been able to be able to create and kind of have us take this journey along with. Did you know when you first created these characters, Norman, that they were characters that you wanted to be able to spend some time with?
Absolutely, especially the protagonist, Bruno Abelard. He owns an antique store in New Orleans. He's a somewhat overweight, curmudgeonly sort of amateur sleuth, I guess you'd say. And I just felt like first of all, his avocation was such that, he would have a natural interest in history and would be inclined to follow there's present day crimes that occur. And then, his ability to follow the historical webs that connect to those is right up my alley. And then his childhood friend, Beau Duplessis, is a property crimes detective with NOPD. And so he's able to sort of steer us through the police procedural aspects, as well as give us because they both narrate chapters. He gives us a view of Bruno that Bruno doesn't necessarily share of himself.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit, Norman, for those who are just discovering your writing. Again, as you just referenced, this is your second book. For our audience out there, too, you can be able to, when you go to the Amazon page for Norman, you can see his first book there as well. Is it pronounced Lafitte Affair? Lafitte?
Correct.
So the Lafitte Affair, they all can be able to see that book there as well. When did you first realize, Norman, that storytelling was something that you were interested in?
I have a writing background. I retired from a long career in corporate America during the pandemic and was looking for something to do. I'd always envisioned myself writing a book. I kind of thought that it might be nonfiction, quite honestly. And I just started playing around with these characters, and it sort of came together, and I really enjoyed it. And it's been sort of a revelation to me, actually, the way that the characters kind of, I don't start out with a plot. I mean, I have a general idea, sort of a hook, if you will. But beyond that, the characters kind of take me where they will. And it's been very interesting. I, never imagined that it would work quite that way.
Interesting. Well, that leads us in to talk about, as I mentioned, the title of the new book is The Golden Cylinder. Buddy Bolden is the individual we're able to find out about. What was the initial seed for the new book for you, Norman?
Yeah, so Buddy Bolden, somebody I'd been aware of sort of vaguely for a long time. I'm not a jazz aficionado, but I have read a fair amount of history of jazz. And for those listeners who don't know, Buddy is often credited as being the first jazz musician. He rose to prominence in New Orleans around the turn of the 20th century. He was not a schooled musician, but he, to hear accounts of his contemporaries, he took ragtime and the blues and married them together and just played differently than everybody else, louder, dirtier, grittier, and he was hugely popular, particularly among black audiences of the time. And he, and but then he had a brief reign, 5 or 6 years, where he was known as King Bolden, and then he disappears from the scene because he goes insane, and he spends the last 25 years of his life in a sanitarium. And there are no known recordings of Buddy Bolden, though one has long been rumored. So all we know about him really comes from accounts of his contemporaries that, 20 and 30 years after the fact, when people started to take jazz seriously as an art form. So nobody who's alive has ever heard Buddy Bolden play a note, yet we continue to call him, the first jazz musician.
Right. And that's what I thought was so interesting when this segment was first pitched to me, Norman, because I had never heard of him before. I'm here in Mississippi. That's where I'm broadcasting from, and I think But I had it's so interesting when I'm talking to someone, they did hear about Buddy Bolden. So I thought it was really interesting. Is that kind of part of your hope with this book, as you're able to wrap this fictional story around him, that you're able to also to be able to raise awareness about him as well?
Oh, definitely. And I think, anybody who has an interest in history, I think, is interested in sort of, turning up little corners in history that people may or may not know about. And, in the case of Buddy, as well as Jean Lafitte, who was sort of the historical figure that he was a pirate, that the first book revolved around. They're both sort of mysterious, enigmatic characters that are somewhat of a blank canvas. And that appealed to me, that, I could kind of explore who they might have been.
Yeah. And also about the dangers of the world, that your characters live in as well, because especially when something is rare, we see it in our world all the time, right? People will go to great lengths to be able to have it, and not always going about it the right way. And so you're able to craft this interesting story there, where of course, when it comes to what might be, how people might react. Talk to us about that, because I think it was interesting hearing you say, Norman, that you don't necessarily script this. Were you surprised at the directions that the story went into?
A little bit. So the cylinder in the title refers to an Edison recording cylinder, which is, in the early days of recording, they recorded on these wax cylinders that would fit over the mandrel of a hand crank phonograph. Basically worked just like an LP, it's just a different shape. And then and those early ones were quite perishable. They didn't have very many playings left. But then around 1915, they started making them out of celluloid, and they became more durable. So anyway, a piece of furniture shows up in Bruno's shop. They hear something rolling around. They find a secret compartment, and lo and behold, there's this cylinder. He's able to find, a phonograph to play it on, and starts wondering, wow, what is this? Gives it to a collector type whose house immediately burns down in an arson. The cylinder disappears. There's a body in the house. And that takes us also into the 1960s and the R&B scene in New Orleans at that time, which is another piece of history that I don't think many people know that much about. But New Orleans during that period was a very important hotbed of R&B.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's what is so cool, that you're able again to mix these different interests of yours. And I can even tell by the way you talk, Norman, that history is something that you have appreciated. What is it like for you to be able to incorporate your love of what is real and maybe unknown into the world that you're able to create in your books?
Yeah, that's sort of the mix. And also, there's it's a delicate balance, right? So of course, this is a fiction. These are in the present day fictional characters, but I do include many true historical figures, as well as places and businesses and so on and so forth. So I do try to research that and be as faithful as I can to the historical context of the times in which these things were occurring.
So the second book featuring your main characters, the protagonist, but they are standalone. Is that also part of the fun for you that you're able to continue telling the story of these characters, but also give them their own individual stories so people can be able to enjoy them separately?
Absolutely, and that was actually, a challenge, kind of a fun challenge actually, in writing the second one and now the third one, which I'm about three-quarters of the way through,
Oh wow, okay.
is how much reference to the earlier, book is appropriate, right? Because you want each book to be a standalone. You don't
Sure.
want people to feel like they have to read the whole series. Yet you also, so you do need to set that a little bit. But by the same token, for those readers who have made their way through the whole series, you don't want to bore them to death by rehashing old stuff. So finding the right balance there has been, something I've striven for.
Yeah. The last thing I want to talk to you about, Norman, I'm going to remind our audience, of course, how they can be able to stay connected with you. I want to talk about the character that is New Orleans in your books. From the first book, which I have not read the first book, but I when I was prepping for this segment, I could tell New Orleans was also part of the setting there too. What has that been like for you now to be able to carve out your own career as an author who's bringing attention to New Orleans and some of the unknown history of the city?
Yeah, I mean, so I have an enduring love of New Orleans. I went to school there. I don't live there, but I get back as often as I can. I live there for, I guess, 5 years. Um, and it's just a place where the past and the present are always sort of forever interwoven. And there are so many, um, just an endless number of little pieces of hidden history that very few people know about, that are just waiting to be explored. So it's a very rich, sort of well from which to draw. And you use the word character, and it's been, lots of people have said to me that the city really is a character unto itself in
Yeah.
these books. And just really quickly, the other thing that I've tried to do, it's been a pet peeve of mine that when people visit New Orleans, they tend to not get much beyond the French Quarter. Maybe they take a tour of the Garden District, but like all great cities, New Orleans is a city of neighborhoods. And so I try to set scenes in places that would be familiar to natives and so rewarding for them in some ways, but also hopefully stoke the curiosity of potential visitors who might want to seek out some of those places.
Love that. Well, I haven't been. I have to be honest with you, even though I'm not. I'm only a two and a
And,
half
you,
hour drive from there. I
and
haven't
you're in
been.
Mississippi and you've never been to New Orleans?
Well, I've been, but it's been a while. It's been a good while since I've been. I used to do book events actually in New Orleans, but I haven't been since before COVID. So it's been about 2018 since the last time I've been. But in reading reading this book and having these conversations, it makes me. And I thought about it. The reason why I'm bringing it up, Norm, is because what you just said. You're right. I love the neighborhoods. You're right. I love the sense of community that you feel all over, not just in the popular, quote unquote, popular places as well. And of course, the food. You can't. The food is great everywhere. Again, everyone, Norman Woolworth has been our guest. His new book is called The Bolden Cylinder. You all can get it here in print on Amazon, or you can get the Kindle edition for only $5.99. You also can get his first book there as well, The Lafitte Affair, as well. If you guys want to catch up with that one too, it also is available in print. In fact, the paperback is less than $8 right now, so you can take advantage of that. Norman, great having you on the program today. How can our audience stay connected with you?
The easiest thing to do is to visit my website at www.normanwoolworth.com. You'll find plenty of information about both books, about me. You'll see some reviews, notices of upcoming events, media appearances, and so on. And of course, there's links to buy the book on Amazon. It's also available, anywhere books are sold. Really, if your local bookseller doesn't have it stocked, they can order it. So it should be easy to find. And my email, you can feel free to email me. You'll see my email on the site.
Gotcha. I just added for our audience joining us on the Amazon side, Norman. I just added the first book to the carousel there as well, so they can actually just tap on it there on the show as well to be able to get it too. Norman, congratulations to you. Thank you so much for stopping by. Looking forward to our next chat together.
Thanks so much for having me, Cyrus.
Hey, glad to do it. And we thank your audience for tuning in. It's another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.